I understand. Yeah? Something I can help with. A Lucius snake oil. I can't say I have, no. Lucius snake oil. That's not a name I'm familiar with. At the hospital in town? No. Not anything strange at all. I'm afraid that you're being misled, Slick. I apologize for that. Happenstance. Oh, yeah, there... Oh, is that his name? Yeah, oh, there is somebody called Happenstance, I think. Quite a new guy, quite a quiet guy. I don't really know him very well. Not really spoke to him much. He's not made much of a presence. I don't know. His like death record's pretty high. He's not very good at his job. A lot of people die on his table. Oh, perhaps. Well, there was somebody goes by the name of Morgan Steeler
Being on mute this whole time.
Died at his hands, but I don't think Morgan had any family. You're pretty sure, right? Am I remembering that wrong? Oh, maybe Solaire then. That's how. Solaire, the cult leader.
Oh, it's the worst start to a stream I've ever had.
Leader of the Celestial Seekers Network.
Some kind of hippie thing, eh?
Definitely some kind of hippie thing, yeah.
You should all go get jobs, you ask me.
I agree.
Well, thanks for your help, sir. Well, I say help. At least, thanks for answering my questions anyway.
You're more than welcome. And if you find yourself near the record studio around 9 o'clock, you're not allowed in.
Dear God. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Right. Explanation. I was just getting things set up. Then he walked and started talking to me. I was like, I just got to press the start button. And in that excitement, I didn't press the unmute button. It also means my screen's a bit all over the place. Which is far from convenient. Got a phone call. You got Trick on the hooter.
Hello there, is that Lit Gravy?
It's Trick Dacy.
Dacy, that's the one.
Who is this?
How's it going? Davy Trout here.
Ooh.
Attorney at law. I think we maybe spoke the other day, but I've got a... I was just wondering if a couple of people got in touch with you or referred you to a couple of people.
I've been in touch with someone called Ralph, I believe you're associated with.
Ralph? Oh, fuck. I don't know what that'd be about. No, not Ralph, not Ralph.
No.
No, fucking hell, I can't even remember what it was now. I can't even remember what it was. Why did I phone you? Who am I?
It's a great question.
Can you remember? Yeah.
Who are you?
Who am I? Well...
can you try and give me it in 10 words? Who are you?
10 words.
That's 2.
Fuck, 10 words, 10 words, 10 words, 10 words, 10 words.
I think you gave me 12 there.
Bollocks. I was never good at counting. It's like numbers, but with, adding them
So
and
do
letting
you,
it.
do you have clients who you think will be in touch with me?
Yeah, I can't remember the name. Hang on, give me a second. I'll definitely write it down, and I definitely didn't just immediately forget it as soon as I fucking spoke to you. Hang on. No, maybe I didn't. Never mind.
Any idea what you might be thinking of?
No, this is awkward, isn't it? This is very awkward. Are you busy? Because if you're busy, you might as well just go. But
No, I'm not
I mean,
busy. If you
Okay. Let me have a look at my phone numbers, and I might be able to remember. All right?
throw some words out of there. Do a bit of word association. Might jog your memory.
Oh yeah, that might help. Yeah.
Client.
Client. All right, let's have a look at the clients. No. Oh, definitely not. No, maybe. No. Oh, is it that? No. My mind's gone completely blank.
How about Private Eye? What's
Oh, here it was. It was a Darlene.
Darlene?
Yeah. There's a lovely woman I met called Darlene. She's on the taxis at the moment.
Oh,
Now, she was having problems. Basically, she's unfortunate situation. She got shot in the tit. Her words, not mine. Twice. She had 2 holes under her tit.
Was that
her
one in
words,
each?
Not mine.
One in each, or just in the
No,
one?
just under the single one.
Oh, that's quite a shot.
And,
Great grouping.
Yeah. Very good grouping. Now this shooter, they were reported to the police. However, I don't believe anything's happened from it, and they've not identified, the suspect.
I see. And they're not going to follow it up.
Well, I think they've got an open report, but not much else is in there.
I
was
see.
wondering if you'd be able to get a bit of information about it, because we're hoping to do like a civil case, you know what I mean? But well, that's what she wanted. I'd rather just fucking leave it alone, because I can't go after someone who's who apparently doesn't exist. But if the police can say that, oh yeah, that was that person, then maybe we've got a case.
I see.
So this is where you come in, Anne.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll get in touch with him, see what I can find out.
Yeah.
While I got you,
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a wild assumption. You being a lawyer, I guess you kind of deal with the seedy underbelly of quiet shitty here. All the punks and all the bums.
Oh yeah, punks and bums. Yeah, of course I do.
You don't know. I was just wondering if you've come across anyone by the name of Lucius Snake Oil.
Never heard of him.
You sure?
No, definitely didn't have a conversation with him the other day.
And if you didn't have a conversation with him, what would that conversation not have been about?
It probably wouldn't have been about let's say, identity theft. Getting hold of an ID for medical staff. Definitely weren't nothing to do with that. No.
Medical staff,
no
you
chance.
say?
Yeah.
Interesting. What? I'm guessing you didn't help them in any shape or form. Because that would be a crime, of course.
No, of course, yeah. I definitely didn't give them a couple of numbers of a couple of people who might be able to acquire such a thing. But
and whose number didn't you give them?
I didn't give them Levi Lewis's number.
I see.
And I don't think I gave them Colton Cross's number. But I actually might not have given them, actually not given them. But that would have been a number I might have given, but I probably didn't.
And what did you make of the guy? What was his kind of character? What's his deal? Is there anything I should be aware of?
No, seemed really nice, really friendly. Yeah, really nice and just straight up normal, yeah, very normal.
Excellent. Did he offer you any payment at all?
I can't remember, probably. I can't remember.
I see. It's just I'm looking for him because he's got a friend who's looking for him, hasn't seen him for a long time. Perhaps might owe him, I believe he owes this friend quite a bit of money.
That might make sense. I think that's why they didn't want me to throw the name out there too far.
Yeah, I see.
Rings a slight bell.
And there's one number I'm very curious that you didn't give out because I believe it's that person who they may owe that money to.
Oh. Who was that? I can't remember.
Well,
I can't remember who it was.
I can't tell you that my client is called Colton. I can't tell you that.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah. No, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that because I think I suggested that name to them and they were like, oh, no, we definitely can't go to, no, do you know anyone else? No, can't go, yeah. No, I remember now. I remember.
I see, Levi.
Oh, you're remembering for me. You're very good at jogging me memory.
Oh, what are the odds? I'm just that skilled a detective, I guess.
Very talented, very talented.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I've got a bit of work for you, actually.
Oh, yes.
Well, there's been, let's just say, how can we put this delicately? Someone's been smearing shit all over my property, both my mobile office and my actual office.
I see.
And I've been trying to work out who it is. And I was just wondering if, you know, if you go to any sort of places later today, whether you could have a little check of the bathrooms, if anyone's in there, you know, for, let's say, over 2 minutes.
Yes.
Whether you could just sort of, you know, rush in there and grab anything you can.
Well, oh, I see. Are you wanting samples to do comparisons?
Exactly. I need DNA.
Wow, that's not a part of this job that I imagined I'd be doing.
No? Well, you could go to like a pet store and get one of those little fishing nets for the, you know, what you do in a fish tank.
Oh, well, I'm worried that there may be some cases where a fine mesh will just act as a kind of, like a sieve. So I need
maybe get a pint glass.
Yeah, a pint glass might be it. Well, you know, a syringe.
And
just slurp it all up.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
What a wonderful image.
What a lovely, lovely
Think of
image.
that noise.
Yeah.
Imagine what that noise would be. Oh, you got one there. You're doing it yourself. You're collecting your own samples now.
I'm just seeing if it works. It works, yeah, it works. It's got a bit clogged, but hang on, let me just give it a little blow. Yes,
yeah, check.
Clear now.
You should put your eye nice and close just to make sure that the nozzle isn't blocked, okay?
Oh, it's a bit stiff actually. Hang on, let me.
Yeah, give it a nice push.
Press it a bit. Ah!
What happened?
I stubbed my toe.
Ah, it's a real shame. Nothing worse than stubbing your toe, I have to say. It's the worst thing anyone could possibly do.
It's terrible, isn't it? Oh, me aching toe. Anyway, I better go wash this shit off of my face.
Right, well, I was just going to quickly ask.
Yeah?
Any people you think would have it in for you and would want to do this to your office?
Well, that's the thing. I can't think who it would be. However, I have. Do you know a Susie Crumpled Bottom?
I do very well.
Susie Crumplebottom, she, well, actually, the other day, I can't tell you that because I said I wouldn't tell her. Yeah, no, I won't say that.
What won't you tell me?
Just say, you know, if I was going to tell you what I was going to tell you, I would have told you that she came round with, basically, she had a cork that was installed into her arsehole the other night, or it was April, I believe, we put it in there. And when she came back, well, it turns out they put some sort of, you know, suppositories. It turns out the suppositories they put in there was actually, you know, like an effervescent or whatever. I can't say the word properly, so I just slur it when I say it.
The Swedish
the band,
melodic metal band.
You know the plink plink fizz, the plink plink fizz.
The plink fizz.
Plink plink fizz. You know when you're hungover and you drop the little plink plink fizz.
Oh, like a barocca.
Barocca. That's it, a barocca.
That's going to be fizzing, so it's going to pop out. The pressure's going to build, and that's going to take someone's eye out.
It nearly did. She came round here, and well, it went off like a shaken up bottle of Carver. You know, it was terrible.
Probably didn't add to the. So, hang on. Do you think this caused the stuff to get on your walls? It sounds like it's an open and shut case here.
No, that actually happened after, you know, all of the awful incidences.
Also, how does this connect? How do these two things connect here? I've kind of lost them.
Which things? The cork up the arse or
yeah, I said any people who might want to do that, and then you said Susie, and then you just started telling me about this, and I wasn't sure if the two things were linked.
Well, basically, I'm just sort of trying to say that, you know, she's got an history of shitting. Yeah.
Well, we all do in a way.
Well, that is true.
There's some more prolific than others.
Yeah. But I don't know. There's something about I don't know. Something about her. She just seems like the sort of person who might do something petty. To be completely honest with you.
I see. Well, I'll see what I can find out for you. It's going to cost you, though, of course. I have a fee.
Yeah, of course. What's your fee? 10 grand?
Yeah, sure.
20?
10
30?
grand.
50? All right, I'll send you over 10 grand.
Thank you very much.
Who are you again? You're Trick Dacy.
Trick Dacy, that's right.
Now.
PI.
I'll do it right now.
Well, do you have me to contact on your phone?
I hope so. Otherwise, this is a waste of time, isn't it?
I'm 89, but how? Because have we met? I don't know anymore.
Yeah, we've met. Of course we've met. I can't remember when, but we've definitely met.
Oh, I see.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have your number. Right, 10 grand. There you go.
Oh, thank you very much.
Getting it?
Well, I'll get
Should
right
be
on
in the
that
bank
for you.
now.
I just got it. Thank you very much.
No worries. Now,
getting loaded.
if you don't find out anything, don't worry about it. I'll just leave you a terrible review.
Oh, no. Anything but that.
Yeah. A terrible review. Oh, your career will be ruined.
Oh, my
Especially with,
TripAdvisor. I'm the number one rated. My number one rated PI business in Quiet City.
Trick Advisor be down the drain.
TripAdvisor.
Right.
My God, that's
Trick Advisor.
I've got to write that down. TripAdvisor.
Trick Advisor. I thought that's what you said, to be honest with you. I
Oh.
thought I was stealing your joke.
No, it's your own. No, I didn't say that. You're a lawyer. I shouldn't have said that. You're gonna. Damn it.
Yeah, fucked it. Yeah. Also, I did get a stool sample from her.
Oh, good thinking.
In addition to the thing that she left in. Well,
So
to be honest,
if you're not already, make
I've handed
comparisons.
I've handed it over to the police, but I don't think they're taking this matter seriously. I can't think why.
I see. It might be the lab.
So,
maybe the hospital. They've got a pretty intense lab there in the hospital. Maybe that's the place to do it.
Oh, do they? Yeah. No, that might make sense. Yeah.
But I'll see if I can just uncover it from subtly first.
Okay. Yeah. Have a go.
Really squeeze it out of her.
Look at that. It looks like there's quite a lot of the ambulance staff on at the moment. That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I just bumped into one of their doctors. Apparently they're having some kind of big night out.
I see. Oh, lovely. Nice for them. Be a shame if someone couldn't go because they were stuck on the phone to some blethering idiot, wouldn't it?
That'd be an awful shame.
Yeah, it'd be awful.
What was the other thing? I've already forgotten the name of the taxi driver. What were they called again?
It was Darlene.
Darlene, yes,
Calloway.
that's it.
Yeah.
Darlene.
Darlene. I'm begging of you, please.
Don't shit,
tell us who
don't
shot
shoot my
you in the
tit.
teeth. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Davey. I'll get onto both those things right away.
Yeah, I'm sure there was something else as well, but I can't remember.
Well, you got my number.
I can't remember. There was a little, a sort of extortion case as well, actually.
Okay.
But
Remember, I hate
probably
crime,
best
so
for the
I want to be
PD.
on the right side of this. I want to be stopping the extortion, not helping the extortion. Yeah.
No. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, nothing like that. Don't worry. No, this Cassandra LaFay. They're also on the taxi. They might be an interesting character. So I've got a new colleague at the moment, a new trainee. They're doing well. It's actually my assistant. Now she's actually part of this. I've never fucking heard of them, to be honest. I don't really watch the telly or read the news or just read in general.
Is it on the wireless?
What's a wireless?
It's a radio.
Video.
A radio.
It's video. How do you? I can just hear Dio.
Radio.
I'm assuming you're saying radio, but I just
wireless.
hear Dio.
The old wireless.
Eyeless. The eyeless.
Yeah,
the
that's
eyeless
it.
From the Dio. Yeah, I've got it. Yeah. No. Yeah, for the horse racing, isn't it? Yeah, of course I do. But, yeah. What happened? Yeah, so there was a picture that was posted up. Can you still hear me? Or am
I can listen. No, I'm listening. I'm intently listening. This is it's called active listening.
Active listening. Is that when you use two ears instead of two mouths? Is that right?
No, you jog on the spot when you do it.
Oh, that's nice. Keep fit. Yeah.
If you see, well, you may have seen me. If you see me in my shorts before, you know I got to keep these calves strong.
Oh.
Like the
Lovely.
Royal Welsh Show.
The corgis?
No, the Royal Welsh Show. They show all the best farm animals you can get in Wales.
Oh, I see.
Just a light.
You don't sound Welsh, I'll be honest with you.
I'm not. I just heard it on the wireless, and they had to just thoroughly describe each cow as they brought them in.
Oh, right.
Oh, look at the hooves on that one, they said. Oh, the finest udders in all the land.
Yeah, I was watching something like that, actually, on, well, it was we won't go into that. But yeah, fucking old, you know, the old, extortion, right? So there was my colleague, she received, you know, she had a terrible time the other night. You know, she was just trying to, like, you know, get started, shall we say. She was just trying to get started in her head. And then she was trying to get, sorry, this isn't funny. She was trying to get started, you know, in her head. A local sort of dragged her out of her car and started beating the shit out of her for no reason. It's not funny.
It's not funny at all, no.
And, you know, at the time, she was, you know, she just found out she had 30 minutes left to pay off the car that she's almost completely paid off.
That's a shame. That happened to my first hog.
Oh, blimey. Is that from the Welsh show?
No, it's in my
show?
my first motorbike.
Oh, motorbike. I see. But yeah, fucking, yeah, they beat her up, you know, knocked her out. Luckily, there was a copper who came, picked her, took her to hospital. And she came back from the hospital. And then she came back from the hospital. I think she got knocked over by another local.
Oh, she's having the worst luck. But this will make great television, to be fair, so it's probably worked out quite well for her.
It would, yeah. It would if there was a camera crew around.
They missed
I should say that.
Oh, no.
Because there actually was, you know, a sneaky person taking a photo. And they've taken a photo of my client, you know, having a bit of a scrap with this local. And they've said, we want 10 grand. We want 10 grand.
So it's blackmail rather than extortion.
Yeah. Now, around the same sort of time, there was a bit of an unusual message, shall we say, posted on the Twitter from this, what's the name again? Cassandra LeFay.
Cassandra LeFay.
I have got a copy of that I can forward on to you.
That would be very useful.
I don't have it right now, but I'll send you an email with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be grand.
Yeah. Now that's sort of you know, I don't know. They sort of left her alone, to be honest with you. So I don't know if there's much to really follow up on. But it's an interesting story, isn't it? It's an interesting story. And it's something, you know, you wanted to pick up, then maybe we could get someone charged with extortion. Yes,
and Cassandra is the person who took the photo for sure.
Can't prove that. We can't prove that. That's the problem. That's the problem. So I don't know. Like, you know, maybe you could play it subtle and just be like, "Ah, you're right there, Cassandra. Have you been taking photos of celebrities beating up people and hope that you can extort 10 grand out of them?" And then you never know. They might just go,
put it up the flagpole, see who salutes.
Exactly. You know, play it softly. You know, obviously don't make it blatant.
If anything, I'm just a real shuttle guy.
It's like a shuttle?
Yeah, I'm really shuttle.
Like a NASA?
What are you talking about? Shuttle. S-U-B-T-L-E. Shuttle.
S-U-B-T-E-L-E-B-E?
I guess letters aren't your strong point either.
No, they're like numbers, but sort of, they do sounds. Word numbers. That's right. No, I hate them. I've been on the phone for nearly 20 minutes to you. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm so sorry. We clearly get on.
Yeah, we get on. If you fancy a pint or something, give me a shout.
Oh, I will.
All right, then. All right, I'll let you go because
I'll look into all those things for you.
Thank you very much. Also, if you can find my wallet, that'd be great. I don't know where it is.
Probably, if people are smearing stuff all over your wall, I'm going to guess hidden under a pile of excrement.
Or feces.
Feces, yeah.
Well, Yeah, maybe.
Doo-doo. I can't think of a 20s expression for that.
What's the 20s?
The 1920s.
20.
What would they call it? I guess jazz droppings.
Jazz droppings, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably under part of jazz droppings.
Yeah. Those damn, I don't know, hep cats. That's probably 50s, isn't it? Does it actually mean
yeah,
hep
probably.
cats?
I don't know.
Is it like a cat that you've got to take to the vet because it's got hepatitis or something?
Right, I'm going to have to end this conversation because I'm about to dehydrate and die.
Okay then, right, I'll see you soon. Take
see
care,
you soon,
bye.
Davey. Right. God blimey. Not had any opportunity to do anything. Oof. This hasn't worked out well for me. Okay. Let's get me up here. Well, hey, hello. In the middle? There we go. I didn't even get to do my hey look, I've started thing. So, it seems snake oil has been trying to get ID for the hospital, fake ID for the hospital. And that's why he's been asking questions about the hospital. Why that is, I don't know. But Levi may hold the key here. Hey, is this Levi?
Who's this?
My name's Trick Dacy. I'm a private eye.
Oh, Trick. How can I help you, pal?
Well, I've just been chatting to a mutual friend, Davy Trout.
Why, yeah.
And he says he may have sent someone your direction for some help with a fake ID of some kind.
I've provided a fake ID once or twice.
Yes, well, I have a friend who's really interested in finding this guy. He owes him quite a bit of money.
Right.
Why no colour? Because we're going for a noir theme.
I'll be honest with you, I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Lucius Snake Oil.
Snake Oil? Was that the guy you were looking for? Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
It was Snake Oil.
Should I
What
go
do you want
into...
to know?
Well, I'm wondering if you had... if he gave you kind of any kind of information at all about his whereabouts or what he's up to, or...
Not really, other than he was pretty cagey about what he was doing.
And how did you arrange to collect the ID?
Oh, it was a drop-off.
Do you remember where?
It was at, I think it was 9066. There's a little
9066.
parking lot there. Told me to leave the ID there and he'd pick it up.
Excellent. That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's alright. He was asking for a...
Quick question. Was it 9066 or was it possibly 8152?
It was possibly 8152.
That's, I figured it was 8152.
I cannot remember saving my life. I had like a sieve.
Oh, well. Maybe... I have a feeling I'm making this phone call a bit later than I originally planned to, you see.
I see. Yep.
So 8152, you say?
Yep, that's the one.
That's the one. That's very helpful. how did he offer payment for this fake ID?
I can't remember.
I see. Well, it's not important. We got the bit we need.
It was a hospital ID, if that helps.
Hospital ID, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
It's all right, pal.
If you need anything privately investigated, you give me a call, see?
I'll get in touch.
Thank you very much, Levi.
Best of luck to you, pal.
You too. Love you. Subtle. Hello, terrible cunt, by the way. Hello. How are you? Yes, black and white's for the kind of noir-y vibe we're going for. Right. I need to get Trick. I didn't even do an opening monologue. That's how bad we're going. But Trick's starting to earn some money, so he's upgraded his vehicle.
No, all the surface roads were fucked because of it.
Check out the new wheels.
Go for a walk. Good one. All right.
Are you having a nice terrible cunt?
That is horrible. Why?
Just need to get some beverages. Yeah, we're doing a bit of a split between two different characters today, just because I need to get a few things done here with Trick. What's happening? Oh, why do I do that every time? Right, so the next person we need to call is Taxi called Darlene.
Hello.
Hello there, this Darlene.
Yeah, you're through to Darlene.
Well, yeah, hello there. My name's Trick Dacy. I'm a private eye.
All right.
My your lawyer, Davy Trout, recommended I get in touch with you in regards to recently being shot.
Oh, wait. All right. Trick, I'm just right in the middle of something right now. I will give you a call back. Is that okay?
That's okay, but I'm only going to be around for about another 20 minutes or so. So if that's...
Will you be around tomorrow, maybe?
Possibly.
I promise you, I will pick up with you. I'm just right in the middle of something, and I can't get out of it, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, don't you worry about it at all.
Oh, well, thank you for getting in touch with me, and I definitely want to find the fuckers that shot me, okay?
Okay, yes, do everything I can to make that happen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right, goodbye then,
Bye.
Miss Calloway. And then the other person. But we need to be subtle about this one. So how do I go about that? But we've got the location of Lucius Snake Oil. So, Colton. Oh, hello, Paul. How are you? It's down as is the name as the right thing? Maybe I didn't press done when I changed the stream. This has been an absolute shambles of a stream because I started before I was meant to start because someone just approached me and I had got a conversation. I was like, "There's going to be worthwhile stuff in here," so I just got to hit that start button. I hadn't prepared screen or anything. And now, I can't remember what Colton's last name is. So I just got to quickly find that out. Cross. Colton Cross. Thank you so much, Paul. Yes, of course he's related to Teddy. I remembered that. Right, we've got the location. Oh, delete tweet. It fits in with Trick not really knowing how to use technology. It all works out. It's a character thing. It's not me being incompetent, as was most of his career in the police force. Nothing to do with. Oh, you can pin messages in chat now. How about that? Maybe we've always been able to do that. That's right. So, are you not around today, Paul? Is Danny the Donkey not going to be around? He'll be on soonish. Excellent stuff. Oh, no. Yeah, I did. It's incredible, isn't it? This is my favorite thing about it. Hopefully, now we've given Colton the location, we get the additional 30 grand. If he's on. Which I don't think he is. Ah, Paul, it's incredible. I don't know which angle's better, your one or the one from Lisa, where the car just suddenly appears out of nowhere. Oh, it's so good. I believe. How much have I got left? Is it money? Is it cash? Cash. That's just how much cash I have on me, not my bank account. Go the long-winded way. I just got an additional 10 grand as well. It's got 25 at the moment. And also TAF coming out. So yeah, this is a... 8152. Oh, I think it's the wrong. It's 8160. I wrote it down wrong. Anyway, this is where Lucius Snake Oil is. How much is crypto right now? 281. I don't know if that's high or low, because I've not looked into it at all. Is that a good number? Bad number? Please advise. Buy 200, sell 400. So if we're slightly over 200... 281, yeah, we'll let it get a bit lower. Oh! Get out of it. Get out of it. Right, was there anything other trick business before we get into Happenstance joining the party? I don't think so. We found the location. We've spoken to Davey. Quite an interesting phone call out of Davey. Worth checking out if you want to check the VOD out. 20-minute long conversation with Davey Trout. We've spoken to Levi. We've got the location, even though I may have written down the wrong one. Well, let's put it this way, Paul. I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop Danny from coming in. I don't know how welcome he'll be, but no one can really stop you. I have one slight issue in that I don't know where I am, for starters. That's one issue. Secondly, is this the one I want? I thought the one I wanted was 2 lines. Had 2 ramps, but maybe. Union Square's looking familiar. Straight ahead. Excellent. What was I going to say? What was I talking about? Oh, not that straight ahead. Oh, I see. Not the route. Get out of it. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, what was I talking about? Found Colton. We found where Snake Oil is hanging out. Basically, we've given them the postcode, even if it was technically the wrong one. I'll retcon that in some way. So that's a case closed for Trick. We've got 2 new cases. I tried to start it, but the person was busy, so wasn't able to. Union Square. Now I kind of know where I am. Words. Paul, is there a quicker way of changing which character I am than completely closing the game and completely restarting it? Because I'm sure there was a shortcut, and then everything I've tried since, I've not been able to get it back up again. Mr. Dev? You could do it in an apartment. Oh, that's not ideal. I'll have to do it the long-fashioned way. Full restart is probably best. Okay. Big face. Get my big stupid face. There it is. Hello. Right. Now I need to go this Happenstance to join this little party for a little bit. And Happenstance doesn't have a car at the moment.
Where are you?
So we'll see what happens there.
Where are you?
This is a bit chaotic.
Miss the avenue!
Because
Come on!
I'm just very underprepared. Oh. What's this? This weird section of this crime jazz playlist, which we no longer need because we're no longer. Yeah, you lurk away, Paul. Thank you so much for your assistance. This is some dramatic music. Right. Do you think I could quickly get you up? Get the colour back. Maybe don't put that one up. There we go. And see if I can, just about in time, cue opening titles. Why is the game not coming up? Why is the game... There it is. Okay. Criminy. Absolute chaos. Hello there.
Hello.
Oh, Bert, by God, you look ready to party.
Oh, I am.
Are you about to drive over there?
No, I'm waiting on my left. Hello, are you alright?
My brother, he is an idiot and he got out of a moving car and he's blacking out.
Right, okay, that's fine, bring him on in.
I'm gonna go get change. I'll be 1 moment here. Okay, hopefully I can hitch a ride with them. That will make my life a lot easier. What do we reckon? This, but I'm just going to change the trousers. I'm guessing Charlene's Jaffa, not the cargos. I don't know what to go for. Can't choose what to wear to the disco. Nope. Shorts are very tempting. Blue trousers? Definitely not red. Definitely not red. Yellow short. I mean, the short shorts are very tempting, but I'm sure there's going to be loads of people. Maybe like... Let's go for purple. Why not? Ready to party.
That's an awful fancy chain you got on your neck there. That mean you got a lot of money?
No, I'm probably the poorest person in the city, to be honest.
No.
No,
No, that's me.
how much money have you got?
I have no money.
He spent all his
At least
fucking
you're
money
not
on
in
the
debt.
fruit machines at the casino, the fuck nut.
Yeah, same.
I lost $144,000.
140. I haven't even seen $144,000.
Yeah, I mean, me neither.
I can't even begin to imagine having such a sum.
Well,
Don't act like you Dr. Folk
Who are you?
on paid fucking hints.
Who am I? We've met before.
Yeah, I don't pay
Ralph?
attention to who people are.
Billy, how you feeling?
We met at the party. Party at the
It's a
news
Dr.
offices.
Happenstance, Ralph.
Ah, Dr. Happen Jerk. More like.
How dare you?
That's not very nice.
Here, I was speaking to LeChuck the other day. Do you know what he told me?
The,
Told me this clown wants to run for mayor.
yeah.
Oh, hey, that's not very nice.
What's that about?
Right,
Whoa
right.
there.
He's
What's he trying to say, Bert?
I think he's been very rude.
Yeah, you're saying I'm not the kind of candidate who could be a mayor?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Oh, shit!
Bert.
You made me hit
See what
Bert.
I mean? See what I mean? Can't even punch the right man. Oh, here we go.
Hey,
Here we
Bert,
go.
Oh, now you jerk! Bert.
I know karate.
Right,
I know karate.
Beefy is chill out. This is a fun occasion, right? We're all going to the same party. Let's be
Actually, come to
friends.
the party too.
It's the whole EMS they're having the party.
Yeah, why is Ralph coming to the party?
He's my +1.
By-
I'm Bert's driver for the night.
By
No,
God.
you're my +1.
He said I've got to wear like a driving outfit.
Have you
That's
got a
absolutely-
have you got a back
absolutely
seat I
not
can
what I
jump
said.
in?
After
gotta
that,
go to-
you should probably apologise first, mate.
Gotta go to the fucking clothing shop first. Look at me, I'm dressed like a mug.
No, sure are.
Wait, you didn't have to agree.
Oh, let's go, let's go.
Right. If this is going to work, you both need to chill out, alright?
I think he better walk, but
Oh, I mean, aye. You should probably apologise if you want to lift there.
Look at it. Look at this. Huh. You don't want these hands.
It's a good stance, to be fair.
Take a look at these hands. They're for surgery.
closing my eyes, turned away.
Because he's scared, you see.
I don't think you've even got hands.
Oh, Bert wants to start
I'm
now.
Trying to help you. I'm trying to patch up your wound.
Ah, Jesus.
There we go.
It wasn't that bad a wound, to be honest. He
Nah,
didn't hit
don't
that
want you
hard.
showing up with a black eye. People think I've been hitting you.
Right, let's go. I gotta go to the clothes shop.
Aye,
Come on,
let's go.
because I think
let's
your
go.
party started, hasn't it?
Go, Doctor, can you patch me up as well, please?
I'm not signed on. Can I still do it when I'm not signed on?
I think so, as long as you've got the kits in your pockets.
Here you go.
I don't know if that worked. Oh, yep, that worked. That's ideal. Thank you.
I'm the greatest surgeon in all the lands. Of course it worked.
Yeah, you can do it even off duty. Yeah, good job.
Oh, you don't have back seats anyway.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, sorry, Doctor.
Guess it sucks to be you, Doc. Ah!
If I could pop your tire right now, I would.
I could pop your face.
I feel like he doesn't like me. Right. I'm gonna have to get a taxi, but I don't have that much money.
Howdy, Logan speaking. How can I help you?
Hello there. I was wondering if I could book a taxi.
I'm off call tonight, I'm afraid.
Oh, I see.
Sorry about that.
Never you mind about it. Might be able to give you a good story about the hospital, though, if you can.
I don't actually have a car with me. I got driven here.
Oh, I see. Okay. Never you mind.
So sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Alright. Have a good night.
You too. I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't get a taxi.
Hello.
Hello there. I'd like to book a taxi, please.
Oh, yeah, where are you, sweetie?
I'm currently at the hospital.
And where's you looking to go?
The Try Hard Studios.
All right, let me just spin around. I'm not quite in the city, but I'll be with you as soon as I can, sugar, all right?
Thank you very much.
I'll see you soon.
See you very shortly. Oh, I gotta turn off cinematic here because I'm not sure how hungry I am. Not hungry at all. Just gotta wait, I guess. This is exciting, isn't it? I might plan to be like on for another half an hour. Hope they come soon. So, what's in the news today? I'll tell you what is in the news. A bloody train strike next Saturday when I'm supposed to be going to see Wales play Australia. I'm very disappointed that I can't go. Also very disappointed that Wales played so badly today. And also disappointed that England, well, they didn't win. It was a draw. And I would have much rather they lost. So a triple threat, if you will. Oh, that's not what I wanted to happen. Classic case of T N W I W H's. Twins. Twins! Twin. That's not what I wanted to happen. Nuantus. Nuts. Words. I'm not entirely sure what to do about this postcode mistake I've done. It's a tricky one to work around. What's going on the old social medias, eh? I'm sure. But I originally made a note of this. 8152. But it's a bit further along, it's 8160. Hello there.
Is that you standing right in front of my cab, sweetie?
It is. I didn't see you pull up there.
Hop on in, darling.
Will do.
Good evening. I'm just doubling up on passengers. That's why it took so long to get here. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't you worry about it. No rush at all.
You heading out for that fancy shindig?
That's right. Big hospital party.
Oh, do y'all work at the hospital?
Yes, I'm a surgeon.
Oh my
Damnedest
gosh.
best surgeon in the whole country, I've heard.
Well, I'm glad that I've got you about in the city if I ever go and
Whoa,
get myself
flying car!
hurt. It's alright, it happens sometimes, sweetie.
So, you having a busy night?
It's been alright.
What time you
Just,
get off?
Whenever I want, really. Perks of being self-employed.
The dream.
We're just round the corner here. There you are, Doctor.
Thank you so much. How much will that be?
That'll be $150, please.
Do I need your ID?
I can hand that over. Well, the actual ID is 90, but I give you my details there in case it's easier.
Not done this before. I don't actually know how to do this. I've never done it before.
Well, if you contact and then you go into your banking app.
Yeah, that's what I did.
If you click on
the little arrows,
transfer button, and then there's a little book.
Oh,
at the
I see. It's a
bottom.
button. You have to press it. I thought it was just like an empty list. $150, yes?
That's right.
Just checking it wasn't 150 grand. We're going to be in an awkward situation.
Oh, no. I wish, sweetie. You have a good night, all right?
You too. Thank you so much.
Take care now.
Down the hallway. Hello, everyone.
Oh, you made it.
Hey.
I got a taxi.
Oh, there you go. That's good then.
Oh, Dr. Happy.
Right, play nice.
Hello,
Right.
everywhere.
Everyone's
look-
having fun.
Something familiar about your outfit there. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, you really?
Yes. Not sure what to put my, can't put my finger on it.
Cool Dude Monthly and seeing what a picture of a cool dude looks like.
Quite possibly.
You look very smart, Mouth.
Oh, I'm not disputing that. Just the Chuck. Who are you here with?
What? You wasn't where you going?
I'm sorry.
The Chuck, have you had any? I mean, sorry to talk business whilst we're here at a party.
You alright?
Any joy with the old missing hospital funds?
Nice to see you having fun, sir.
No, I'm not feeling anything about that. Unfortunately.
It's not working. Leave him alone.
Sorry, it's just we're missing vital funds to help people. That's all, Ralph. Should be a big issue for you when if you become mayor. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the
Like
way
that
off.
will never happen.
I gotta rebuild my reputation first.
They just didn't leave like any prints or anything, so there's nothing to go on.
Hey.
Well, I hope
Well,
someone can
gloves,
figure it out.
Busy shit.
You wear gloves, you don't leave prints.
really
It's a little tip for you. You sometimes leave prints, though.
Why do we all
Sometimes. There's still a chance.
My God, there's so many people here.
Davey, no.
Wash your mouth out.
I guess a lot of people had plus ones.
Did you not have a +1?
Oh, get it.
No, I couldn't afford a driver.
I came with Bert.
Did David just say that you put the logo on?
No, I think you put cocaine
Yeah,
on
me,
it.
me, Bert, and LeChuck were thinking about starting a Lonely Hearts Club at one point because we were all three of us unlucky in love.
By the way.
Oh no, he's doing his speech.
Isn't that right, LeChuck?
I don't remember that.
Oh, looks
I do
like
remember
Takeout's
you,
doing a
saying
speech.
Some,
Yeah.
mean stuff to me outside the hospital.
Thank you very much. For anybody who wasn't there, that's a big L. Big L for you.
Big L.
Now, things got a little bit weird. Thank you. Thank you, Douglas. Thank you very much. Shout out for My buddy Douglas down
What a
there.
guy.
In the front row.
What a guy.
Thank you. Now, the EMS is an important part of this city. Without it, everybody dies.
Oh, Lord.
So this party is to celebrate you and the excellent job
and you
of the EMS. Round of applause and enjoy the party.
Oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
What the
That was
fuck is going
inspirational.
on here? Who are you people?
That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Jesus.
I thought that was going to go to absolute shit, to be honest.
This is for you. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I'm just gonna have a
this is
little
for
nap.
you. You're
Like-
yeah, man. People would die without you.
Yeah.
God.
Everybody's happy, right?
Yep, we're all happy.
Party luncheon gets for you.
Everybody's happy.
I'm gonna pretend to be happy.
Good.
Oh yes, take heart.
You okay
so
over here?
Right. Oh, take heart. I
I'm
love you 'cause I'm
incredibly
Dr.
sleepy.
Happenstance.
You look at what you might be throwing up.
No. Dr. Happenstance is behind me.
No,
Yes?
I already did that.
Hi, Doctor.
What was that?
I was just saying, are you enjoying the party?
I'm having a great time. How about you, April?
I'm having a great time, thank you.
The very conveniently timed return to April.
Can I get you a drink?
What are you trying to say, Doctor?
Nothing.
Feeling great.
Go, I can get you another one.
Just that you suddenly return and suddenly 30k of hospital funds disappear.
That's quite a strong accusation,
Are you
Doctor, and one I
accusing her of
really
stealing
resent.
them? Come on.
I'm just
Oh my
saying.
god, this is ridiculous.
I'm just putting two and two together here is all.
No, you're putting like random numbers
Thank
together.
you very much.
Here you go, you get him a drink.
Thank you, Chuck.
That's alright. Do you have my number?
I think so.
Give it to you just in case.
There you
We'll
go.
follow
I'm
up
still not
there,
hitting a no.
Happenstance.
I'm not saying a no. It wasn't me.
Well, it clearly wasn't me.
Or something.
Why would I steal money from the hospital that I work in?
That's a great question. Why would you?
I wouldn't.
Look, it's probably somebody from outside the hospital that went through the door, right?
Yeah, it's just it's the whole ID thing. I still don't quite get.
Davey, help me.
Sometimes
This
the door
is
just stay open.
an awkward work
No
argument
need
and
to
I
accuse
can't
people.
get up. Thank you.
So I realize I'm killing the vibe of the party a little bit.
Just a bit.
Been difficult times over the last few weeks. Crisis in confidence.
Davey.
Not quite myself.
It's understandable, but it's just,
You have any
you know,
cocaine?
don't point fingers at innocent people who've been through
Okay,
enough
I
as
think
well.
I have some. Want some?
Still think you did it. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Hang on until
Davey was carrying.
Sebastian, you okay there?
A little bit sozzled.
You're looking a little bit wobbly, wibbly, wobbly, wobbly, woo.
Yeah, I'll be fine in a minute.
Maybe a glass of water.
Stella?
I have cola.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Nice sobering cola. You're medical professional. You know that's not gonna do the job. Something tells me I'm gonna be giving a lot of IVs tonight.
Oh no, thank you. No, thank you. I do not
Run
like
away.
IVs. I don't like the taste.
Oh, they've got some moves over there.
I was gonna say, it makes you kind of look like a detective.
Maybe that's what he reminds me of. I don't know.
Well, see, you think people who wear a hat like that are idiots. Okay, Logan, I get it.
No,
No,
Logan,
I'll wear
Logan
the hat
usually
like
wears
that.
a hat.
Ah, jeez. Really screwed
Hey,
this up.
Freya.
Nah, you're fine, Ralph.
Hi, baby.
Are you mad at me?
This is good though. There's like
I told you not to go get cocaine. You want to go cocaine?
I didn't know it was
What did you get?
There was mini burgers on the platter at the back. With the soft
I
drinks.
gave it to you. I didn't take it.
I'm proud of you. But
There we go.
No, you alright, Freya?
Hey,
Oh, thank you.
It was Davy Trout's friend.
How many did you give?
Don't arrest my friend.
Supposed to have that. How hard think about it.
It's good you're driving, Ellie.
All that petrol there
By
is.
God.
Is it? Ellie can't drive when she's sober. This is fair, so it can't
You
get
want a
much
drink?
worse.
We thought we Jesus Christ.
Like Lewis said, we could just do a carry tower and not drive.
Yeah.
We can all just walk, like, shamble back across the city.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant. We can go and get, like, food, not burger shop, though.
We all just drunkenly make our way walking back to the hospital together.
Oh, someone's gonna have to jump on someone's backs and hold someone else's heels.
Yep. Sebastian, you've got mine.
Hope someone's got a big enough bag to put them in. So that was a beautiful speech you made.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I can't help but, I know it seems very rude of me.
Yeah.
It seemed like you talked about, taking cocaine.
No, I found some cocaine and now I've
Tripped and
lost
it fell up your nose.
No, I gave it to my girlfriend.
You what?
Yeah.
Have you seen Davy Trout?
Yeah, he's at the door there. He's trying
A
to get through
bo-ho.
the door.
A bo ho ho.
Oh,
A bo ho ho ho.
where'd you go?
A boo
okay there?
Oh, that guy's crying. Is he a goth too?
I think he might be
I'm
gone.
fine. I'm fine.
Goths.
I never seen a goth hospital.
right,
It's funny theme.
The goth spittle.
Yay.
Sir, I have not seen you. Are you up to date on the situation we've had?
What situation?
30k of hospital funds were stolen.
By whom?
We don't know, but they
Don't
seem
have
to.
enough
They broke into
alcohol.
my lock here. And then stole a key that I had for your office for some reason.
Please.
And they went in there. Extracted them from your computer.
And have you phoned the police?
Yes, LeChuck's on it, but he says there's nothing they can do about it. They can't find anything out. These police, they just don't seem to be able to sort anything out around here. Oh, hello there,
There's a
LaRue.
couple-
How are you?
There's a couple of them pretty good.
I think she's jealous.
Of what?
Our friendship.
Who are you again?
Boo ho ho.
We didn't really go
Boo.
into
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope this isn't gonna cause problems inside my head.
Everybody look at me. I went to this house, picked up a TV, but the cops call it a felony. I got arrested in the White City. In the White City. In the White City. In the Quiet City, I got arrested in the Quiet City.
Oh, I don't remember
Are
it.
you represented by a lawyer? Would you like us to assign a lawyer to represent you? Excusez-moi.
Oh, I can't remember the.
Excusez-moi. Hey, you with the flaxen hair, the fabulous fashion and the ice cold.
Oh, we're in
stare.
sync.
Why
We're in
are
sync,
you
Bert. We're in
restraining
sync.
me?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Look at that.
These handcuffs now.
I'm with you.
Restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût. What am I to do? Restez pas le goût. Restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût. What am I to do? Restez pas le goût. Are you represented by a lawyer? Would you like us to assign you a lawyer to represent you? Excusez-moi.
What?
Excusez-moi.
What?
Hey, you with your evidence, dancing around and doing a bronze. Don't you think you can pick me up? This is not what should be happening no longer. It's not good. Get me out of this cell, huh? Capitano. Restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût. What am I to do? Restez pas le goût. Restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût, restez pas le goût. What am I to do? Restez pas le goût. Capital la rue, capital la rue, capital la rue. What am I to do? Capital la rue. Restez pas la rue, restez pas la rue, restez pas la rue, restez pas la rue.
I did it.
I'm just a taxi boy. I do not have the money, I know nothing about the crypto stick. I do not participate global in the medical fancy. Just a taxi, Let me out, girl. It's a quiet city boy, girl.
Bravo! Bravo! Do we need to all link arms? What should we go for? 7?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll keep you updated.
This is a good dance for this.
What's happening on our end of things.
Take a look at these hands.
No,
Yeah.
all I have is take her dancing in front of me so far, but
Take a look at these hands.
it's just about that, so.
Take a look at these hands. Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you later. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll see you later. I love you. Bye.
Take a look at these hands. Yeah.
Woo!
Yes. Yeah, we flip and go. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Get these shots
Sorry.
down.
Alright.
Oh shit, I gave you 7. I want 7 of them. Okay.
No.
Get them down, yeah.
Okay.
Guess we're just watching him dance for a bit.
Cheers, love.
Too many sober people in this bar. I don't like it.
Yes.
I'm perfectly sober, actually. Yeah. This is me sober dancing. Yeah.
Your plan works. I've gone.
Okay,
Yeah?
Yeah.
do we like Community?
He's gonna be stealing Bobby's music.
Pretty wild.
Maybe The Office?
Shut up, Happenstance.
Whoa, that's rude.
Maybe The Office.
I've been nothing but pleasant to you.
Trying to talk to
it's just
my
like
friend
watching-
here.
hold on, give me
I put this party on, you know.
He's my
I just
friend.
watched like so many things. It's hard to,
I'd say, obviously,
Would
yeah.
you like
remember
best?
stuff.
Dawson's Creek.
Who are we talking about, Rob?
Friends.
Me or Happenstance?
Happen what?
More like Crappenstance.
Gossip Girl back in the day.
Got ya?
The Hills.
Of course.
Boo hoo hoo hoo. A boo hoo 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 hoo. A boo hoo 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 hoo.
Take that, you jerk.
Happenstance, you okay?
We've hurt his feelings. He's a medic. You can just.
A boo hoo hoo hoo.
Well, he's not a very.
Look, I know you don't particularly like me, but would you like a hug?
No.
I would like us to make amends and be friends, Happenstance. I don't like seeing you upset because of that jerk over there.
Chuck saw me be nasty to
What,
him.
Ralph?
That's illegal.
Well, whoever was nasty to you.
It was Ralph.
Oh,
Oh, that's right then.
well, it still stands. Do you want a hug?
No, thank you.
Hey, everything's blue.
You're
That's
blue.
nice.
A boo hoo hoo hoo.
Stop
A
crying.
boo hoo hoo hoo.
It's not very becoming, is it?
A boo hoo 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 hoo.
Two. I called him Crappenstance.
Do you want to be left alone to
Yes.
do your boohooing?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, don't say I wasn't trying to be nice to you for once.
Yeah.
That's what you might need to do, so I don't suspect you of stealing money.
I didn't steal your bloody money. Why would I steal your money? I've got plenty of money of my own.
Is that some kind of threat? I don't know.
No, it wasn't some kind of threat.
Oh, I wish it was. That would work out for me canon-wise.
Well, maybe take it as a threat.
Thank you. I mean, no, how dare you threaten me? How rude.
You keep your goddamn mouth shut.
Or
That
what?
was no, I don't know. It's been
Well,
a stressful couple
Or I'll
of weeks
learn,
for me,
I'll learn
Happenstance.
something.
You had a date with April?
Ooh. You having a date with, you on a date with LeChuck?
Who you gonna go out with from the DMS next, Chuck?
Yes.
Hot dang.
I don't know. It's a bit awkward. I haven't really brought it up.
Oh, is it one of those things where you've both agreed to come here, but not under agreed circumstances?
What next? You gonna go out with
Yes.
the lawyers? Davy Trout?
I see.
Well, I'm just trying to move on from certain situations.
Where I think that's a bit of a tangled web there, because isn't LeChuck's...
Yes, yep, yes.
He is. Like, if you were to do a graph, it'd be crossed lines.
I'm sitting on the edge.
Yes, it would be. And you wouldn't be in any of them.
No, I'm alright.
No, boo!
I wanna awkwardly dance with you. I wanna awkwardly dance with you.
I'm fucking 6 joints now.
I wanna awkwardly dance with you.
Fucking put your gills away.
Can you see my gills? I wanna awkwardly dance with you.
Fucking get the snorkels out. This is the yellow submarine now. You see no
Talk to me, Levi. What did I do? Way too sober over it.
Shut your fucking gag hole.
Who the fuck
Charlie.
are you telling to shut?
You're fucking gaggy.
Oh, well, shut
Yeah, that's hitting me now.
You want to
Emperor's
throw
no
hands?
Back I go. Fucking throw hands.
You want to throw hands?
You
Charlie.
fucking couldn't fight your way out of a paper bag.
I'll fight my way out of your fucking head.
Contact here. I'm terrified.
Oh, you're alright, LeJack.
Look in my eyes.
No!
Would you dance with me, Levi?
Sorry, I'm camera, I can't hear you very well.
Oh, God.
Hashtag
Oh.
possessed.
Levi.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit spaced out still, but getting there.
Are you holding my
That's my
spoons,
defeating
Levi?
drink. That was going to be my line, April.
Absolutely not controls. Yeah. It's a good thing I'm trained
Oh,
in
yeah,
conflict
chakras.
resolution. Community manager for too long.
I don't hate you.
This is brilliant.
Yeah, be good. Oh, it's really good. Except, I may need to re-record it. Oh, Jesus, LeChuck! Whoa, LeChuck. I don't know what your idea of a mistake is, LeChuck.
I was trying to drink. She punched me as well.
I want to do crimes. I want to do crimes.
A boo-hoo.
Let's do a crime,
A
everyone.
boo-hoo. A boo-hoo. A boo-hoo.
Fucking shut your gecko.
Shut your fucking gaggy, Charlie.
Do you know what? Goofy would hate you, to be honest.
You know Goofy? You know Goofy?
You
Fuck
don't know
that guy.
Goofy. Whoa, Levi!
How did Danny get here?
Alright, darling.
You there?
Oh, yes, just getting some fresh air.
Would you like to hear a story?
Oh, please do.
I just heard of our beloved chief of medicine
Yes.
possessing hard drugs, cocaine,
Oh.
Excuse me.
Good.
and telling his police officer girlfriend about it and her helping cover it up.
Oh.
A boo! A boo! Stand it there. Oh, what's going on? I regret this. I did this without forming enough of a plan, I think. Probably a mistake. What a mistake to make her, everyone. What a mistake to make her. Absolute disaster. Let's let's see who we can go on and bloody do a raid on. Oh, he was here earlier. Let's go see Paul, shall we? Just because we saw him a moment ago.
The new Google Pixel.
No Google Pixel. No, thank you. No, thank you at all. But yeah, I hope everyone was able to enjoy what was mainly just me stood there not talking. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But have a lovely time with Paul, everyone. We got some important story points across, albeit haphazardly. So I'll take that as a win. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.